All right, everybody. This is the video for response 2D sample exercise for the Explore Performance task. All right, so remember the prompt for 2D says using specific details, describe the data your innovation uses and then how the innovation consumes, produces, and or transforms data, and at least one data storage concern, data privacy concern, or data security concern related to the computing innovation. All right. So this is relating to rows 6 and 7. All right, so remember row 6, uh, the scoring criteria says that it identifies the data that the identified or described computing innovation uses and explains how that data is consumed, produced, and or transformed. All right, and then row 7 says identify one data storage, data privacy, or data security concern related to the identified or described computing innovation. All right, and so we have response to A, or sorry, not response to A, student response A for prompt 2D. All right, so this student wrote, the system of blockchain operates with a distributed ledger. According to CoinDesk, a distributed ledger is a database held and updated independently by each participant or node in a large network. Notice once again, they are referencing in text one of their sources. The computers use metadata from transaction requests. Each block of data contains a pointer to the previous block, a timestamp, and transaction data. Then this chain of blocks is held in the storage of each node. The data it produces is the blockchain itself, which is a stream of transaction data separated into blocks by set intervals of time. This data is kept in a ledger, which does not need to be verified by a central authority. Notice once again, referencing one of their sources. It computes by taking the data it runs and runs it through algorithms to verify the identity of the request. In the case of blockchain technology, private key cryptography provides a powerful ownership tool that fulfills authentication requirements. Possession of a private key is ownership, referencing a source once again. So essentially, the blockchain computes by running transaction data through algorithms that verify private key ownership. A privacy concern is that Bitcoin relies on a public blockchain, a system of recording transactions that allows anyone to read or write transactions. Anyone can aggregate and publish those transactions, provided they can show a sufficient amount of effort went into doing so. This means that anyone who really wanted to could see transactions being made on the blockchain. And with a little effort and computing ability, they'd have access to transaction amounts, time, and other data. All right, so have they earned the points for row 6 and 7? All right, so once again, let's go back up. Row 6 says, have they identified the data uh, the identified or described computing innovation uses and explains how that data is consumed, produced, or transformed? The answer is yes. So what did they specifically say? All right, so let's give them the point there, but what did they specifically say? All right, we could say that they've earned the point. Why? Because the response identifies the following. All right, so let's go ahead and all right, so the response identifies each block of data contains a pointer to the previous block, a timestamp, and transaction data. All right, so timestamp, transaction data, that would talk about what? That would talk about what they bought, where they bought it from, how much they spent, all of that, those things. It then states it computes by taking the data and runs it through algorithms to verify the identity of the request, okay, which is described how the data is consumed and transformed. All right, and so they would earn row 6. All right, what about row 7? All right, row 7. Identify one data storage, data privacy, or data security concern related to the identified or described computing innovation. So is there some concern about the data that this blockchain takes in? Well, the answer is yes. They have stated that. All right. In this last paragraph here, they say specifically a privacy concern, right? And so that is what we are referencing. Okay, so we would say that yes, once again, the response earns the point. So we would give them a point here. right? And we would say why or why not. And we could state the response earns the point for this row. The response identifies the privacy concern. Bitcoin relies on a public blockchain, a system of recording transaction that allows anyone to read or write transactions, right? And so we would say, specifically that somebody would be concerned, right? Because this transaction data, right? So if you look at the bottom, uh, they'd have access to transaction amounts, time, and other data about the buyer and the seller, right? So they have earned the point for both rows 6 and 7. All right, so remember, now we are going through and grading rows 6 and 7 for the remaining responses in this worksheet. And remember, this worksheet is going to be due at 11:59 p.m. Once again, remember to reach out if you have any questions or issues.